let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war. But there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time, we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than dead, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn their spirits, not animals. He said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Wow. Hello, everyone. This has been a while for me, so I'm going to ask if you guys could hear the audio. I want to make sure I'm set up correctly on my end. Let me know if you could hear me. I'm going to give it a second because I know there's a delay from when I start talking until you guys can start hearing me. So let me know if you guys could hear me. I'm just going to wait in the comment section and see if I'm able to make sure that everything's functioning correctly. It looks like it's working on my end, but I'm going to wait for a thumbs up or something in the comments to let me know. Just double checking the comments. I'm waiting for comments to come in. Perfect. I'm hearing positive stuff. Everyone can hear me. That looks good so far. Awesome. Cool. So it's weird being away for the amount of time that I have, because it took me longer to set up the studio and forgetting little details like lighting and all the other stuff, because it's been long enough, isn't it? Okay. So first of all, thank you, Justin Ramirez. You're always running around showing your support. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. I don't anticipate this being a super long live. I just want to kind of give you brief recaps of where things are holding and what's going on, and then what the plan is going forward on the channel. So obviously we could probably assume what's been taking up all the time, but I'm going to try to go through kind of an outline of what's been going on to give you guys, again, just an update on what's happening. So October 7th, it was a big Jewish holiday. There's a holiday called Simchas Torah. It's a very positive holiday. It's a holiday of joy and excitement. And just like anything else that happens in media or in news, it takes a long time for actual information to come out to everyone of what's going on and what's actually happening. So during the day of October 7th, which is going to be obviously the day that there was the attack, I was outside the synagogue and there was a soldier there and he was crying like crazy. He was a guy that was a active Israeli soldier, and he was just like crying like crazy. And we're like, what's going on? What's happening? And he said that my friends were just taken hostage in Israel. And remember that still at the time, we had no concept of exactly what was going on. We didn't understand the extent of what the attack was. And everyone was just, trying to comfort him, saying like war is war. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But unlike any other war in the past, this is of the first wars where we have so much footage from so many different angles, from so many different types of cameras, from so many different sources. It is overwhelming, really. And people are being now exposed to more of what combat is like more than ever before because of the technology that soldiers have available to them, and them posting even personal images of themselves or things that are happening in active combat right now. So again, at the time, we had no idea what the deal was with him crying and freaking out. And again, obviously, having a friend being kidnapped is a terrifying thing. And then what we heard as some news started coming out was that there were rockets being launched into Israel. And I think at the time we heard around 300 or 400 rockets, which again is a crazy number of rockets to be launched anywhere. And then the number just kept rising and rising and rising and rising. And then more and more news kept coming out of what was going on. And then by the end of the holiday, I opened up my phone because again, we don't use our phones during holidays. It's a break from old technology. Religiously, we don't touch any electricity and things like that during holidays. And I opened up my phone and my phone is blowing up. I have a lot of family in Israel. I have a lot of friends in Israel, and a lot of them were immediately put on the front lines to be able to deal with whatever was going on. And I have no idea what's happening. We have no concept of what was going on. We hear small amounts of information here and there, what's going on. But again, not to the extent that we heard. And then again, as more information is rolling out, we heard that the attack was initially done at a event, right? So there's going to be an outdoor, a festival kind of thing. And politics aside for a second, regardless of what you feel, whether it's absolute BS or not, that a country is an occupying country or doing all that stuff, if your response to that is to murder a bunch of civilians, I mean, if you attack a military base, we're still going to attack you back, but fair game, because those are the people enrolled in the job to do that. If you open fire on a bunch of civilians with the sole intention of killing as many people as possible and then gaining as many hostages as possible in order to be able to create a message, that's not war, that's terrorism. And it astonished me how many people that I knew, that I was interacting with, were even considering this being a side of just moral justice, which is absolutely insane. But we heard about the attack, and then I'm connected to a lot of different military officials and different people that were reaching out to friends of mine that are on the front lines, and more footage is coming out of what the attack was and how absolutely insane it was. Now, the analogy I kind of gave to everyone was that after the attack, the analogy is kind of like you slap your older brother in the face. You might have had the slap, but you know that slap is going to come with very serious consequences after that point. So what ultimately happened is that the attack was, again, absolutely horrible, kidnapped a bunch of people, killed a bunch more people. The footage of the actual attack was horrifying because, again, this is not combat. You're not going against combat veterans. You're not going against say everyone in Israel is drafted at some point, but you're not going against an armed populace, right? Israel, surprisingly, is a very liberal country with horrible, horrible gun rights. So everyone at the festival is unarmed. And they just started, again, open firing into a crowd of people. And then I actually saw some footage of people that were hiding inside the porta potties that they leave at the festival. And they're just open firing into every single one, that if anyone was hiding in there, they're going to kill them. Again, that's not an act of heroic. That's not a heroic thing to do. That's not a combat soldier's goal. That's just terroristic murder. There's also footage of guys that were hiding inside, huge groups of people that were hiding inside missile bunkers in the festival. And then you see the terrorists come up, they open up a grenade, they just chuck it into the room that's meant to be a room to stop against explosives, and just start killing a bunch of people. It was without question, slaughter. And like something you might have heard, there hasn't been as many Jews die in a single day like this since the Holocaust. It was an absolutely horrible, horrible event. But then came the work. So what ultimately happened is that I don't consider myself to be an influencer. Like I really don't like the term influencer. So there were two types of people that have social media platforms doing two different things. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just giving you two sides of the perspective. One side was I'm going to take to social media and keep people informed of what's happening, and I'm going to keep people updated as much as possible. Good. That's awesome. That's media. Good stuff. Then there were people that fall into the similar categories as me, that I do a lot of gear reviews on the channel. I'm connected to a lot of brands, and they were reaching out to me because they said, we need equipment now. What are we able to get now? Where a lot of reserves were being drafted immediately back to the military, and they said, we need better equipment. So with that being said, I spoke to a lot of brands that again are connected through this channel, and with a huge help with them, I was able to get a lot of really important equipment. So before I go any further, I want to just highlight a few of those brands and just give a thank you to those people again before going forward with more information. So of the companies, many companies with Big Mac Defense, they're a company that was selling a lot of night vision equipment and things like that. If you know anything about night vision equipment, it's very hard to obtain, and also make sure to legally get it overseas. There's things called ITAR regulations, which means it's not so simple to just transfer certain types of equipment overseas. They were very helpful with us being able to acquire those things, as well as also holsters and a lot of other equipment that soldiers needed. So a huge thank you to them. RMA Armament, again with body armor, a lot of my personal equipment I gave to soldiers, so I'm much lower in the inventory I previously had. I gave a lot of my equipment, just gave it to friends of mine and shipped it out to Israel to try to help as many people as I could. Tattle Gear is an interesting company as well that you guys could check out also. They're currently doing a thing where if you bought like a knife, they sell knives and a few other pieces of gear. They're actually donating 2 additional lives for every one purchase to soldiers to make sure that they're equipped as well. And they have really cool stuff. Laser ammo, really helpful. They were, again, I had one of their products just as things started going down, and I didn't make a review video yet. We had kind of like an agreement of when I would post a review of the product for them, and they were, again, very kind and understanding of obviously what was going on. They also have like on their website a big banner that says like supporting Israel. So really nice people. 80% Arms reached out to me, and we were speaking as well of all the things that were going on. Again, really cool guys. You're able to get really cool 80% stuff if you're legally able to obtain those in your state. Really cool things you're able to check out. Hoodlum's Gun Bench is a friend of mine, social media. I think you've seen him on some point in the channel before. And he was also guys that helped me review products as well. He was one of the first people to reach out to me and just make sure that I was okay and see what was going on across the world. There's an additional person that I'm assuming wants to be anonymous, but you know who you are, who also reached out to me personally. And again, I really appreciate you guys reaching out. One Source Search and Rescue, another friend of mine who helped me obtain a lot of medical equipment. We shipped out close to, I think it was around $85,000 worth of medical equipment to soldiers. And again, thousands and thousands of more dollars of other equipment as well. Recover Tactical, they make in Israel, because the legalities are so ridiculous. If you're a soldier, you're allowed to have a rifle. If you're a civilian, you're only allowed to have a pistol. The crazy part is that most people there that were veterans were trained on the rifle platform, but not on the pistol platform. So what ends up happening is that they have knowledge of how to use a rifle, but training skill sets of a pistol are entirely different things. So Recover Tactical, I made a video on the channel before. You're able to take your pistol and put it into a chassis, and it makes it more of a rifle. So for a lot of guys who, again, don't have a lot of pistol training, it's a more familiar platform because it's more rifle-esque than it was as a pistol. So that was very cool as well. Wilder Tactical, they also had what's called a lot of my mag pouches that I use from Wilder Tactical are now being served, being used in Israel. And as well as Optics Force, they were able to help me scopes and a lot of like different optics that I wasn't able to obtain fast enough. And they were like, again, really essential to be able to get a lot of equipment there. So again, huge thank you to all those people. Again, really appreciate all you guys joining the live right now. So to continue going along, I had to make the decision of where I wanted to fall in this whole category. And I decided that it would be far more important to me to put as much effort as I have in the resources that I have and the people that I know to try to get equipment and help to those people as possible. So my company was pretty much temporarily closed, and I was putting literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to get and organize as much as I could. So even on Saturday, right after the Sabbath ended, where I had to turn off my phone, I was still reaching out right after the Sabbath ended and trying to do it. I was up randomly 3 or 4 a.m., just waking up to check my phone just to make sure things are going well. And also because of the time difference between here in Israel and other places around the world. There were people all over the world helping, trying to get things to where they needed to be. One of the things that One Source Search and Rescue did, he's on I believe he's live with us right now. He actually, we gathered a huge amount of equipment medical equipment specifically. And we went to a manufacturer. We said, we need to get these, like this stuff, we need to leave like now. And they looked at the quantity. They're like, there's no way you're going to leave with all these boxes. Like you're not leaving right now. That's not what's going to happen right now. And what we ended up doing is we took all the boxes, we emptied out the boxes, we put those all into duffel bags, loaded them on to a plane immediately. And the company was shocked because they didn't realize how serious we were about get this stuff, move it over here ASAP. Like it had to happen now. It was astonishing to see the logistics that people and effort people were putting in to make these things a reality. It was unbelievably incredible. So right now I have a lot of friends of mine that are again still currently active duty. They're still currently on the front lines they're actually fighting in all the different situations. They are constantly being bombarded by rockets, but they're still trying to minimize attacks in certain areas. They want to keep that down. And then they have other guys who are already in Gaza and places like that, which is incredible to see. So the plan going forward is I have a lot more products that I'd like to review. A lot of companies that have been kind of waiting on me, and I appreciate them giving them the patience because I needed to prioritize on what had to happen now. And I now have those things that I'm going to start trying to refilm for you guys. I hope to very, very, very soon get back on a schedule, start posting more information for you guys. If you guys have questions of videos you'd like me to make on either what's happening actively around the world or maybe tips and tricks of the things that you're dealing with, please feel free to let me know. In the past month, I've trained more people that were all new shooters, people who have no experience with firearms, zero. I've trained more people in the past month than I have easily in the past year. So it's a big statement to make that all these new people are getting involved in firearms now. Also, another huge shout out to Hoodlum's Gun Bench, who's on the live with us as well right now. He actually reached out and he said, if you have any friends that are local or people that need help to be able to get firearms or learn how to train, he was going to be actively involved to try to help them do that. It's amazing the amount of people that reached out and were amazingly helpful. Now, the way it works is that Jews are a very small percentage of the world, and it's very easy to see the overwhelming hate that's coming in our direction. And it's fine, it's okay, because hate has always been there. We have an entire Bible of history showing that there are people who didn't like us. And there's kind of a joke in the Jewish world when it comes to holidays is they try to kill us, we won, let's eat. That's usually the order of operations for most of the holidays, the Jewish holidays. For example, we have Hanukkah that's coming up right now. And, the Greeks try to kill us. We won ultimately that battle with a small army. And then now we have a holiday of really good food. So, it turns out well in our favor. So I have no worries about my friends on the front lines. They're very trained, very knowledgeable guys. We're actually obviously praying for their safety, for the safety of the civilians, for the safety of the children. Oh my God, the safety of the children. It's such a hard war is not good for anyone. And anyone who would say otherwise is just wrong. No one wants war. The whole idea, even on like the question people bring up a lot, is like nuclear war, things like that. I would hope, okay, you never really know these days, but I would hope people understand that nuclear is kind of like the I dare you thing, where the numbers of what people have nuclear wise is more on the position of like, this is what we're capable of, but like we're both not going to use it because the world would pretty much be over. I don't think anyone's actually prepared for a nuclear war. I'm not very concerned about that at all. If you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out in the chat. What parts of the US do I teach classes? Currently everywhere. I've been everywhere in the US over the past month, literally giving classes everywhere. So the question is going to be about what class you currently want. Right now, what I'm doing is I did a lot of work with colleges and different communities of people of just doing seminars about like situational awareness and being prepared for different types of attacks. Remember that the training for a potential riot or protest is going to be very different than a concealed carry holder because you're dealing with an entirely different species of fight. So it's very good to have that kind of information. So I've been flying out to communities and doing seminars and events for that kind of thing, as well as also if your area has, let's say, an outdoor range that they allow like NRA approved instructors or whatever it might be to teach in those locations. You can reach out. We could try to figure out based on how many people you have and what classes you want that I'd be able to fly out there and offer those classes as well. I do plan, again, things are still really crazy right now, on being in Florida at some point soon for those classes, as well as California. Nothing is set in stone yet, which means, again, if you have something set up or whatever it might be, feel free to reach out. And I want to be able to help as many people as possible. It's truly the reason why I got into the industry I got into is because I want to be able to make a positive difference and make people assets and not liabilities. And we have unfortunately, this is a time where people are now learning, at least they're learning from other people's mistakes. So you're seeing what's happening to other people and you realize, for myself, I don't want to be in that position. And this is the time to take action and make a difference, because you have the understanding of what you're able to do, the way the world is able to get, and things like that. And it's really important that you take the what you're feeling now, whether that be fear, whether that be, determination to make a difference, whatever it might be. You need to remember what this feels like. And once training feels like it's slowing you down, or you feel like you don't have motivation, you need to go back to this memory and realize, if I was in that same mindset then, what would I do differently? And usually it would mean I would train harder. I would put more effort in. These are things that are not able to be done last minute. Even as a very low level example, me setting up this live, right? It took me additional few minutes to remember how things are set up, just because it's been just over a month, right? But in just over a month time, I forget the small things. And that makes a big difference when it comes to guns, because if you're talking about malfunction clearing, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger press, the small details that make a difference with your fundamentals will deteriorate over time. Guns are not like riding a bike, where when you ride a bike, you're like 20 years later, you could get on a bike and you'll figure it out. It's not that complicated. Guns are a specialty item that takes a lot of time and effort to make sure you're honing in your skills and making sure that you're as clear as possible with what you're doing, because we're dealing, again, we want to be assets, not liabilities. We might need to take very particular shots that are going to be relevant to not only taking out the person who's ending life, but making sure to preserve the life that's around you. These are things you're going to be responsible for. So these are things that are, again, really, really important. So I have a few other projects coming up. The plan right now is, because a lot of my higher end gear, which I've like accumulated over the years, it's not like I bought it all at once. Like, there are certain pieces of equipment I knew were better that I wanted to get over time. So I saved that money for them. I built it up. I put together like my battle belts and things like that. All that higher end equipment I sent to friends of mine who are on the front line. So I don't have that equipment anymore. So what I might end up doing is, at least temporarily, until things pick up a little bit more, I might do more of like a budget style build, which I think would be beneficial to a lot of people in general, just to show you, like, even for myself, things are going to be fine. You could always get better equipment, but for the time being, that might be a good option that you're able to look at. So that might be something I'll do as well. I also have like other guns that I purchased, because now I'm recommending so many concealed carry guns to different people. I want to get more experience on different platforms as well. So I know that when I'm recommending it, I know I have experience behind that gun. So there's a few newer gun builds that I'm going to be putting together for you guys to check out as well. And that's kind of like the short-term plan. I'm going to just look through the comments to see if there's any question. Let's see here. I know there's a long delay, so I just keep waiting for anything to come in, so you guys could just be, I could just be on top of that for you to make sure that I'm answering any questions. So I know there's probably like even a close to a 30-second delay. Nate, you're watching from Jerusalem at 3 a.m. Bro, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. There's some people that I know, like, are either the brands or whatever, but they might have a different name on their title. So I want to apologize if I'm not like highlighting you specifically. It might be helpful to do a video on simple equipment versus overly complicated equipment that you don't want. True. So that's a good point. I probably am going to do a more simplistic, like straightforward build. So people are going to understand like the basics of what you need, like on a battle belt or things like that. The guns I'm putting together are particularly straightforward. So again, it's going to be something that it just like it runs. It just needs to run. Some of these builds I'm going to put a little bit more into, just because for me, the cost of being able to modify to the way I wanted it anyway versus buying it stock is actually a little bit more affordable in some cases. So I might have it different than a normally stock setup. So that might be something I would speak about. What do you think about the Enigma concealed carry holster? It's actually a very, very cool holster. I've been wanting to get it myself for a while, but the only thing that's ever stopped me is that it's somewhat complex to make sure you're ordering the correct parts that you need for the setup that you want. I now get it more, but it took me a while to get to that point. I think it would be a very cool setup. I know for a lot of women, it's very popular because it's also very much like a standalone kind of system where you don't need to worry too much about, am I wearing a belt right now? Or what's my outfit going to be like? So that's going to be something that might be easier to deal with. So I do think it's actually pretty cool. How often do you have training classes? Currently, it's almost none unless a group reaches out, just because I'm focusing on so many other things. I don't have the ability to set it up right now. But I'm going to be doing more. My offer still stands. If everyone is in the Houston area and needs help or wants to learn how to run a gun, let's see. Wants to run a handgun or rifle, I have no problem meeting at a local range and teaching them. This guy is Hoodlum's Gun Bench. You can check out his channel. He's the guy who's been very, very helpful, and he's based out in Houston area if that's something you're interested in. Thoughts on night vision for civilians? Big thanks from Gabriel and Jennifer. How you guys doing? Night vision, I think, is a very valuable asset. It takes a lot of training, again, to get to the point. Obviously, they're quite expensive. One of the brands that I just mentioned earlier, let me see if I can just pull them up again, is Big Mac Defense. They have really, really cool stuff on their website when it comes to night vision, if you want to check it out. Really cool guys. Again, they have a lot of really cool stuff. And again, it's an asset, meaning if the military is using it, there's a reason for the military using it. You need to train with it, just like anything else. You need to really be on top of that to make sure you're training correctly. Night vision is I can't afford it right now, but night vision is an amazing thing that, if used correctly, it's a huge asset. It's the expression is, it's the only superpower you could buy. So that's pretty cool, right? As a side thing, by the way, is that just as additional for random updates, I right now have a merch line that's now available. You could probably find it on YouTube, as well as also on the community tab on YouTube channel. I'll try to do an additional link at some point here. I didn't set that up. This wasn't superly well planned. But all the profits that are going to be made from there, a percentage is going to go towards continuing to help soldiers in Israel. I have a bunch of stuff I'm still looking to purchase that are just really expensive that I just need a raise for. So I'm just going to keep working on that. Let's see here. One Source Search and Rescue. This is the guy who was helping a lot with the medical stuff. He said he's open to also helping out with anything in regards to medical. If you guys need anything, One Source Search and Rescue, really cool guy, has really great stuff, and really nice dude. What do you think about using the Ulti-Clip as an inside the waistband holster for a tucked in shirt? So the only question I have with that is I'm not fully familiar with an Ulti-Clip being a tuckable option. I could see how it would work, because usually it has to mount at one point to be able to do so. If that's what you need, which means usually the reason why you'd have an Ulti-Clip is in replacement of a belt. So if that's the case and you need to use that, then sure, not a problem. They work. The only thing about Ulti-Clips, again, you want to make sure that it doesn't tilt or move too much, because that could be a problem. So you want to make sure that as long as it's stable, then it's not a problem. Houston area. Yes, for Hoodlum Gun Bench, he's based out in Houston. I don't know if I misspoke there. Let's see. Just going through questions you guys have over here. Yes, One Source Search and Rescue. He also makes custom kits. So, for example, he actually just built out a kit for a friend of mine who's he works more in like the construction area. He did in the construction industry. He did a lot of research on making sure that he was able to he looked through statistics to make sure that he knew kind of what equipment is more valuable for different people, and then within that industry, which stuff are most needed. And he actually built out a kit based off that, which was really cool. The guy loved it. It was actually a really cool thing. Something interesting, by the way, if you guys are interested in, I might make either a dedicated video or maybe we just speak on live about what was the most requested items that were needed for soldiers. Because again, if when it comes down to it, similar to what we just spoke about in a second, right? We spoke about like bare bones, what do I need? Those are things that are very good to know. Like just I need this to survive right now. What is it good? I have a question actually. Glock 43X or P365? Ooh, very good question. So right over here is going to be the upcoming build. This is the X Macro frame, which I have more parts right over here. We're going to be a build video I'm going to be putting together. They are both great guns. To my understanding, they're very close in barrel length. So they're both great. I'm a fan of the 43X. I'm currently carrying the 48. The reason why I like the 48 is that the 43X and the 48 are exactly the same. Just the barrel length on the 48 is a little bit longer. If it's going further into your pants, you get a little bit more velocity. It's the same velocity as a 19, and it's not that much different in regards to comfort for me personally. So I really, really enjoy the 48, which is the reason why I carry it. And also now the reason why I'm looking at the X Macro is that if you're in a free state, this X Macro goes from, instead of on the standard end of a Glock carrying 10 rounds, you get 17 rounds in this. It's unreal. There's also, again, way more modular if you want to be particular about that. Do I give private lessons? I do give private lessons if that's something you're interested in. It would be more local, but yes. 43X all day. Hoodlum's Gun Bench has made a decision. 43X. I like both. I think they're great. I do like the 43X and the 48 are just a tad thin, I feel, for my hand. Meaning if they have the option of like palm swells of some kind, that would be cool. The X Macro, it feels great to me, just stock. Again, I'm still very new to this. I'm not going to give too many big opinions yet. I want to make sure, I know what I'm talking about. What about comp pistols? Look at the questions being asked. This is good. This is good stuff. So I'm giving away, I feel like, too much for the channel. Like there's no build up over here. This is the what's called the P365 standard. It's just the P365. It's the X, which means it has the ability to mount an optic. So it says P365X, optics mount ability. And over here, if you could see that, let's see, it's focus in nicely. Let's see. No. Here we go. There you go. That is a comp from Parker Mountain Machine. So they come with a barrel and comp that you're able to get, and it fits on like this. So it fits the overall length of a X Macro, right? But it's comp. The reason why I was looking at this as an option is that the price for an X Macro with the ports on this slide, so meaning it's not comp, the slide has ports. I ran that gun for a little bit. It was not impressive. I shot it next to my 43X, which I made a video on. That's comped. It's like night and day. The comp was so much better. So I said, if I need to spend anywhere near that amount of money to get a gun, I'd rather have it be ported like with the actual comp correctly. So I went the Parker Mountain Machine route, and I'm going to see how that plays out. I'm assuming it's going to be significantly better than just a ported slide. I really do enjoy them. They make a really big difference in recoil management. It's not for everyone necessarily, but they're really cool. They are really cool. How to set up a Ruger PC9 in a 10-round limit state as a quick response. That's a very good question. Okay, so the Ruger PC9, again, there's a basic rule of three things you need on a gun: a way to see, a way to aim, and a way to carry. So a sling, an optic, and a flashlight. Those are mandatory for any firearm. Again, carry on the pistol side would be a holster. So I would have a flashlight, optic, and a sling at the minimum. I would have, you could have obviously magazines preloaded. You're able to get chest rigs that are pistol specific. So you're able to just get a chest rig that you could have as many pistol magazines. So if you're looking for a quick response kind of setup, that would be a good option to look at. Hi from Alaska. Whoa. How you doing, bro? I appreciate you joining. Macro, love the Macro. Again, I like the feel. I don't have enough experience to talk just yet, but yeah. Comp it up. Okay. The Ramjet looks amazing and definitely going to pick it up soon. I love ported guns too, but they diminish velocity and will affect how bullets expand. Really? I didn't know that. So now I need to do a ballistic testing of the difference, because if it's going to be for defensive use, like right now I just got another box of Critical Defense, Hornady Critical Defense. I'd be curious to know if that's interesting. Does it? Because it's ported, it would change the impact and expansion of hollow point ammunition. I'm trying to think that through. By the way, the Ramjet is mad expensive, by the way. Like, power to you, my guy, but man. No SES. The sight on it is absolutely awful. Just get an optic and slam it on there. So I'm probably, my go-to optic now, personally, this is my opinion, is the Holosun EPS. It's an enclosed optic that is going to go, again, obviously in the back, right over here. Yeah, over there. And I really like those optics. Again, it being enclosed has really great battery life, and they work really nicely. Let's see. I would imagine escaping gases would diminish velocity. The question is, aren't those gases going to be the gases from behind the round? We're having a conversation. Let's think this through together. Dump mag pouch or normal mag holder when doing your stuff. If you're referring to a dump pouch, I would highly recommend a dump pouch. For me personally, it's because of classes, where it means when I'm just having empty mags, I throw it in there so I don't mix it up with other people's mags and I don't just lose stuff. But it's a very, again, assuming I'm answering your question correctly, it's a very dangerous habit to, during a drill, take the empty magazine and put it into a location where you'd be reloading from, because what that means is that you'll naturally at some point reload from that empty magazine. It became habit, which is a problem. So I would say separate empty mags from loaded mags in whatever way possible, but you never want to get into a position where you might mix up the two. That would be a really big issue. You're getting over 200 FPS loss with ports, but on a comped gun, it doesn't lose muzzle velocity. With port, okay, fine. Fair. Like, are you talking about the barrel being cut versus a comp? Because again, in my head, the bullet's going like that, and the gases are over here, and then the gases create that difference. Not that it's okay. EPS is awesome. EPS carry is awesome on the 43X. I love the EPS. I really enjoy that optic. It's a great option. What concealed carry are you recommending lately for beginners? The most commonly available, again, the one that I recommend is there's pretty much the three neutrals right now, which is the Glock 43X, the Glock 48, the SIG P365, or meaning those are the top three pretty much. And then the X macro is usually what I recommend, because the P365 for me, it doesn't allow my finger to really hold in correctly. So that's going to be the one I'd be doing. I've been running the Kraken from Swamp Fox. I have heard good stuff about them. I haven't tested them myself to know, but I have heard good stuff. Tactical fanny packs, I understand it now, by the way. Being a dad, if I'm appendix carrying and I'm holding a kid or whatever it might be, I get it. I get it. Don't hate just yet. I understand. The other thing is that I had guys that reach out to me who are like truck drivers and things like that. If you're driving for hours and hours and hours, I would agree. I'd rather be able to move around comfortably without there's something being in my appendix. So having it as something on your chest, I understand. Again, there's a few of them I'd be curious to try out, but I just, not enough experience, but I get the idea. What is your stance on the Israeli-Palestine conflict? I mean, here we are, Don't kill innocent people. Now again, oh my God, Israel's shooting at civilians. People have been pouring in their 44 Magnum up here for years without problems killing bears. So I think that might be a part of another comment that I didn't. My bad. Ported 44 Magnums. Ooh, ported 44 Magnums. Looking for a second carry gun. Any recommendations? Currently have a Glock 19. If you currently have a Glock, so the question is if you're in a free state or not. If you're, let's assume you're in not a free state, then the 48 is the exact same thing as a 19, but thinner. So if you're limited to 10 rounds capacity anyway, then having a 48 is just a thinner, more comfortable 19, which is pretty cool. If you are in a free state, and again, if you want to just switch brands, that's the reason why I'm looking at the X macro right now, is that if you're just looking to switch brands and try something different, this is roughly this, it's a little smaller than the 19, but 17 round capacity. Yeah. Ported 44. Talk about a hand cannon. I get it. Like, man. That sounds like a really painful day at the range. Whew, man, that sounds horrible. So, yeah, so as of right now, what I'm going to try running is I'm going to try to run an X macro with a Parker Mountain Machine barrel and combo, EPS carry. I do want to get a magwell just because I really do enjoy having magwells, but I want to see, I want to try to run it without that first to feel what it feels like. By the way, if you have recommendations, I despise the SIG trigger. It's a horrible trigger in my opinion. I might now be a trigger snob, which I would accept, but yeah, I'd be curious to see if there's any recommendations because I'm not. The ones that I'm seeing are shoe replacements, and then you have to manually switch out the springs. But the issue is that since for SIG, the actual trigger the system is the serialized part, I feel like it now limits you to some degree. If you're in a free state, you could get the Shield Arms S15 mags. So just my current opinion is they're not reliable enough yet for me to want to be able to recommend them. Ones that I have seen, which I feel like not a lot of people heard about this for some reason. Surprisingly, Palmetto State Armory came out in competition to S15 with a 15-round capacity magazine. The front of the magazine is polymer, and the rear portion is metal, which means that you get the ability to have that flex, which allows you to have the 15 rounds while not needing to switch out your mag release, and also feeding more reliable. I got to run one of them. They were actually really cool. So far, again, I don't have nearly enough testing on one yet, but so far, that looks like they're about to give S15 a run for their money. It's really cool. Apex. Does Apex have a trigger for the X Macro? Again, all I've been seeing is replacement shoes, not replacement, like not overall making the trigger better. I'd be curious. 43X with the PSA 15 round mags is a massive game changer. Yeah, again, I agree that the S15, the 15 round mags from PSA so far seem like a very interesting change for what we have. Opinion on suppressors for home defense on a handgun. Awesome. Why not? I think it's great. You're obviously getting a little additional barrel length, but like that's nominal. You don't need to be overly worried about hearing protection. The question is also if it matters about if you're going to be using subsonic versus supersonic. And then if it's going to be defensive load, making sure that you have your optic and everything zeroed accordingly. Because again, if it's a defensive gun, make sure all your numbers are correct, right? My P365 curved trigger feels better than a flat trigger. I've tried on a Tech Ops. The curved trigger. Because I was looking at the flat faced. I'm getting the FCU, which is the fire control unit, right? So that's going to be what goes into here. So that's why you're able to buy like the frames and the slides and everything else. I need to figure out the trigger situation. It's not been pleasant. Yes, I agree. Having a suppressor is going to be very beneficial for home defense if in regards to not blowing out your ears. Like I would have a suppressor on my gun if it was for home defense. As of right now, I was planning on going for a flat-based trigger for the build. But I don't know yet. I mean, I usually prefer flat-faced triggers. I don't like the trigger from SIG in general. So I'm also worried about messing around with springs because SIG is not known to have great drop safety. So I don't want to start messing around with that. You know? I have heard about the No More roster in California, but I don't know exactly where it's holding. Meaning I've heard chatter a bit, but I'm pretty sure it's not over yet. I feel like it might be, coming up. Yeah. So again, if you're dealing with the ATF, which you have to be, getting a suppressor takes quite a long time, and it's real pain to deal with. It's such a ridiculous, it seems like, by the way, over the past, few years, things have been coming back. The pistol brace ruling, very interesting, right? Because we had it gone like 200-ish, let's say 300, even though it wasn't, but let's say 300,000-ish people complied when we have an estimated like 50 million of those around. So they realized it was not really the move in regards to doing that. So I guess they figured that out really quickly. But then, so now it's overruled. I don't think it's fully completed yet, meaning officially it's completed, but I don't think anyone's comfortable yet to go back to the range with it because it needs to be more solidified, to my understanding. But yeah. Okay, so California is making it more difficult to add new guns to the roster, but you believe it did pass, right? Got it. Okay. So again, it might be. I'm not sure where it's holding yet, but I would definitely make sure before I do anything to confirm. But I know SIG has been advertising in California now because now they're available in California. I sold my brace pistols a week before the ruling. Well, it's time to buy another gun. Good time to buy another gun. A braced gun. Again, assuming you're able to buy them right now. I don't know what the deal is with that yet. It was annoying because once I got everything set up, I put together a nice braced gun. I had everything set up, my nice optic, the full deal. It was going to be my home defense rifle, everything ready to go. And then this went through, and I'm I just spent all that money and time and research trying to make sure this functions well. And they did whatever. So I have to see what happens now. The P365 is now available in California. Yep. Who's Mass, is trying to pass a law where, Massachusetts, I'm assuming. Sorry. Is trying to pass a law where every part of a gun has to have its own serial number. Get out of here, my guy. Oof, that's ridiculous. It doesn't surprise me, but like that, come on, bro. That's nuts. Get out. That's ridiculous. Micro-Roni on a Glock. So okay. The Micro-Roni is great. It's fine. Again, I'm not sure the legalities within California, but it's great. I really like the Recover Tactical because it's a more simplistic design, which is why I keep recommending it. So you can I made a video on this. It's really, really cool to have the Recover Tactical option. So I just like that option, but they're both great. It's worth to wait. Trust me, getting a suppressor you can get is all done under $500. I'm assuming you're talking about the Sandman. Okay. You're going to buy tomorrow. If you're going to buy the Micro-Roni tomorrow, check the laws, because I don't think in California it's so simple, to my knowledge. I could be wrong, but yeah. Lots of talk about ammo shortage. I understand why there would be, but so far, meaning numbers tell the truth, I haven't seen any massive change in cost yet. It doesn't mean it isn't coming, because companies probably have a backstock, but as of right now, I haven't seen any major change yet. The P365 and 320 have a California compliant option. Yeah, there you go. Is an ammo shortage every 3 years? Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I still think you should have at least a minimum amount of no touchy ammo, where if things do go bad, you still have ammo. Like COVID was the actual valid reason that people were freaking out, because there wasn't ammo or it was mad expensive. But yeah. Yeah, Massachusetts needs to get their stuff together. That's crazy. Again, nothing surprises me at this point, but yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like again, that's, oh my God, such a, like, how do you enforce that? Like I'm trying to look at a gun. You're saying, like, is the smallest spring? Is the magazine spring? Like, is that spring is going to be a problem? Like, I don't know how that works. Okay, question for the chat, because I'd be curious. What's your opinion on how many rounds of ammo minimum should be your back storage, just in case? Excuse me. I think on my end, I have roughly a minimum of 2,000 rounds, just like whatever. But yeah, the ATF is always listening. Yep, 2,000 per caliber. 1,000 per caliber minimum. Okay. 1,000 in each caliber. Okay. The idea is, by the way, there's a difference between having the ammo and having it actually ready to use, which means you should have also think about your worst case scenario of whatever scenario you're kind of prepping for. That needs to be set up and ready to go. So if you have body armor with magazines or whatever, those have to be loaded. So you're not going to be loading when all hell breaks loose, right? So consider that as well. Enough for 4 magazines of carry ammo and 8 of practice minimum. Nice. Okay. But you see, what's interesting about that is your 4 magazines of carry. Like you're doing it in regards to magazines, which is a good thought process as well, because you could have back storage, but like, are you going back and forth and reloading your mags? Not necessarily. Like, what kind of gunfight do you think you're getting into, right? I have 12 mags fully loaded of green tip 5.56. Shot almost everything else, just waiting to go back to work and buy more ammo. Nice. That's the other question. Oh man, because I heard this as well. There's people who tell me your stock up ammo must be hollow point. Thoughts on that? Because I think for most people it's going to be FMJ. That's my assumption. Right? So green tip is not. That's, it's a big boy round. Yeah. So if you're a reviewer, Hoodlum's Gun Bench is a reviewer, so he shoots a lot more ammo. So having more on stock is probably makes sense. Yeah. So this is the thing, by the way. This is the thing. Everyone was freaking out. Like, well, you think people are going to be coming out of the sky and shooting you? That's exactly what happened on October 7th, which is why for a lot of people, their tactics changed. Because it's not about like people making fun of you. This stuff happened. It's going to happen. It could happen. It already happened, which means if your perspective is still like, it's not going to happen to me, you're already like in a bad position mentally. Like, you need to understand, the world has changed. We have drones in combat now. So the battlefield is a very different place right now. Desert Eagle or 500 Magnum in a CQB environment. If you only had two. Desert Eagle. I feel like it's still less of a than a 500. I would go Desert Eagle. That's a 50 AE versus a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. Why hollow point, not Full Metal Jacket? I stock Full Metal Jacket. People are saying hollow point because like that's gonna be the best defensive option you have, whatever it might be. But like again, what enemy are you going up against? If your enemy is a riot full of people, then you probably want defensive ammo because you're not shooting everyone. You're shooting particulars within that crowd. Versus if it's all battle war, I don't really care about that point, I guess. So the other thing is that remember, whichever ammo you're storing, your primary ammo needs to be the one that's zeroed to your firearm, right? So you can have many different types of ammo, but you need to make sure, again, if you're doing precision work, yeah. Bitachon is always number one. That is your primary defensive option. We should make that a brand. I almost never carry hollow points except for my 44 Magnum because that just makes a fun blood collage. Ooh, that's intense. If you think about for shoulder self-defense, then hollow points is the way to go. For any house of worship, defensive ammo should be hollow points because you're dealing with a very high risk of civilian casualties. You have to be super, super careful about that. Yeah, you want to be super careful. Again, if it's going to be in any house of worship or an environment where there's going to be a lot of people who are also no-shoots, you have to be very, very careful about that. Bullets go through people. Also remember that hollow points reduce the likeliness of over-penetration, but it doesn't stop it 100%. It's not a full guarantee, right? $729 for the 365 at Turner's. That's an average price. It's not a good price. That's like an average-ish price. Maybe a little bit high, actually. So in my state of New Jersey, you can't have a hollow point that doesn't have a filled cavity. So I carry the Hornady Critical Defense. That's these guys. And you can see the actual projectile has a red tip because the logic there is that if I put a red tip, then it's not a hollow point anymore, which is the most ridiculous logic I've ever heard in my life. But I also carry it because it's 115 grain, which is the same weight as my training ammo. So everything is pretty much consistent across the board in regards to the ballistics of my optic and making sure everything's zeroed correctly. I used to carry Federal HSTs, and by the way, they've lasted longer for me, the Federal HSTs, because the Hornady Critical Defense, what I've noticed is after loading them, they often sink into the casing faster than I did with the Federal HSTs, but like whatever, it is what it is at this point. Any company you recommend for red dot optic milling, either Glock or M&P, Smith & Wesson, Smith & Wesson M&P. CNH Precision, I believe, does very good work. The other company that is Access Manufacturing, which I didn't mention them. They're also a really valuable company during this whole crazy time. They helped me a lot also. Sorry, I didn't mention them. Access Manufacturing. They do really, really nice Glock work if you want that. Would you use 45 ACP or 9mm for shoulder defense? Right now, this has been a topic that's been coming up a lot more recently. I generally will stick to 9mm. The technology of 9mm with hollow points has come to a point that it's not really a debate anymore. You could have more ammo of a 9mm generally. It's less snappy and still very effective. I personally would go with 9mm. Braces are currently still considered illegal in California because that would constitute the firearm to be an assault weapon. Oh, God. That ban hasn't been repealed yet. Yeah, the question was about other states right now, what's happening with the pistol braces. I don't know where they're holding. Would recommend JagerWorks. Yeah, JagerWorks also does good work. Yeah. New Jersey's ammo stuff is ridiculous. Like you're telling me that now I put a plug inside the ammo, it's like not as lethal anymore or something? Like what's the perspective there? It's ridiculous. Just got a Beretta A300 Patrol. Any recommendations for a light suitable for a shotgun? The Streamlight ProTac HLX is a very neutral, good option. I'm sure there's many other options, but like that's of my more neutral decisions. It's affordable. You're able to modify quite a lot and actually works pretty well. Critical Defense doesn't crimp their case And it also doesn't have any cantilever. I'm going to admit that I don't know what that word means. Whereas HSTs has both. Pretty much is more likely for a HST round from critical hoarding to critical defense to sink because it doesn't have the technology to be able to do that correctly, right? That makes sense. Model-Lite and Surefire are awesome, like no question. If you're trying to stay more budget though, Streamlight is suitable. Yeah, New Jersey sucks. I was more for referencing the legality of having a micro in Glock. Yeah, you're right. Saying you're correct. It's going to be it's a yeah. Yes. You're correct. Rare California, by the way, it's a good name for that. 45 ACP tends to break up on the surface and is not. It doesn't penetrate as well, I guess. Yeah, it's just saying it's 40 9 millimeters. Like you can't. You're fine. I'd still, by the way, if we're going back to the Roni, I'd still recommend at least considering. Look at the video that I made on the Recover Tactical. It was pretty interesting. Okay, I'm going to call this a night. I appreciate you guys joining. Again, if you have questions, please reach out. If there's something I could do, if you have a community that's interested in training or whatever it might be, please let me know. Also, just because I think it's cool also that I actually have a merch line going on, you could check out the merch. I think it's pretty cool. I'm sure if I prepared myself more correctly for this, I would have been able to show you some of the stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be really cool stuff. I really appreciate you guys joining. Again, thank you everyone for reaching out and helping out. I really appreciate the brands who've been sticking by me, even though I haven't made videos on the stuff I already said I was going to make videos on. So again, thank you guys. Let's make sure that we keep the world a good place, huh? I think it's still going to get crazier before it gets better, and we'll see how that plays out. Yeah. Have a great night, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you hopefully very soon.